This is based on Paul Ryan's press conference on Tuesday, February 27, 2018, on the shooting at Parkland, Florida.
For gaps in the background check system that need to be plugged, we passed a bill to do that, and we think that should get done clearly. Let me just say this on we shouldn't be banning guns for law-abiding citizens. We should be focusing on making sure that citizens who should not get guns in the first place don't get those guns. And that is why we see a big breakdown in the system here. In this particular case, there were a lot of breakdowns, from local law enforcement to the FBI getting tips that they didn't follow up on to, school resource officers who are trained to protect kids in these schools and who didn't do that. And that, to me, is probably the most stunning one of them all. So there's a lot that we have to look at, but what we want to do is protect people's rights while making sure that people who should not get guns do not get those guns. Chad.
It's amazing that Paul does not even mention AR-15s or any other semi-automatic weapons. He lumps all the guns together. While majority of people are talking about common sense gun control measures, Paul talks about ban on guns. It sounds like trickery here, right? Is this to incite fear among the Second Amendment supporters that their guns will be taken away? Paul throws everybody else under the bus except for guns. There was an FBI lapse. Local law enforcement didn't do their job. It's the mental health system, the background check system, and even the school resource officers. But he does not blame guns at all. At a minimum, people should realize that this is an unbalanced approach, maybe even deceitful.
Oh, teachers, look, as we have Sheriff Rutledge has a bill that we're looking at as well that addresses this issue. He's a sheriff from Jacksonville, as you may know, and we're looking at the Rutledge bill, but that is really a question for local government, local school boards, local states. As a parent myself and as a citizen, I think it's a good idea, but as Speaker of the House, I think we need to respect federalism and respect local jurisdictions. First of all, there was a colossal breakdown in the system locally. So there was a colossal breakdown, and we need to get to the bottom of this, how these breakdowns occurred. From what Steve just mentioned, to the armed officer who was in the school at that time, to the FBI who failed to follow up on a glaring tip that this young man wanted to shoot up a school. So that's pretty profound. Then we also know that there are problems in the system with background checks where people slip through the cracks. Those are things, we already passed a bill to fix that. We want to finish by getting final law on that thing. So of course we want to listen to these kids, but we also want to make sure that we protect people's due process rights and legal constitutional rights while making sure that people who should not get guns don't get them. This kid was clearly one of those people.
The three important things that Paul does not mention. The shooter had an AR-15 and the guard just a pistol. So now, should the guard sacrifice their life because they have got inferior weaponry to the deranged student shooter? So maybe we should arm the guards with even more stronger weapons than AR-15. Instead of semi-automatic, we should give them a fully automatic gun. So that means we would create a war zone in every school. So why is Paul so focused on this incident on a very narrow basis, instead of looking for a universal remedy? Even if every teacher had a gun, the killer would move to a rooftop, like the killer in Las Vegas. And he would mow down the kids as they were leaving school at the end of the day, or during recess in the courtyard or something like that. Shouldn't the House Majority Leader have a more comprehensive view on this? Thirdly, the cost. Governor Rick Scott and the Florida Republican legislature laid out $500 million for a school safety package. Who is paying for that? Will it be the mentally crazy people? Is it going to be the AR-15 owners? Is it going to be all the gun owners? Probably it's going to be every person residing in Florida. That's not fair. And if every state were to adopt, we would get another $25 billion of debt. On a broader issue, according to Politico, in 2016 alone, Paul Ryan got $172,000 from the NRA. This is the highest amount that any House member has gotten. So what I'm perplexed by is, does the country not see through his absolute bias towards guns, especially based on the money that he's gotten? To me, it's plainly obvious that the stance and the language used in lumping of all the guns together and a total deflection from the guns is being impacted by the money that he got. If Paul was so concerned about saving future lives, why wouldn't he go very broad on this issue as opposed to narrowly focusing on this incident? It's okay to look at the FBI failures at a national level. Maybe even get a group of school resource officers to talk about what's going on and why they might abdicate their responsibilities. Also, don't leave any loopholes in the background check system, and we know there are plenty. And maybe even put a 1-year moratorium on the use of AR-15s, except by military professionals. You absolutely have to do everything. And if it goes well, maybe then you can relax the rules. If it still fails, then we would look at even more drastic measures from the entire spectrum of things. That would be the common sense approach. Now finally, if democracy cannot handle such a basic issue of safety for its citizens, I think this democracy is doomed to fail.